Hello, it's Myndrr bringing you a Flamethrower build that beats all of the meta builds out there currently, except maybe my manual aiming build. I'm calling it the Firefly. This thing destroys dual Zimmermans, it destroys the Bumblebee, it destroys floaty missile builds. I've yet to lose on it so far, although Mood beat me a couple times on an older version, although I did win the set. This build also has a quirky bit of tech. It uses the Pulse Shield Launcher. These Pulse Shields block all projectile attacks, including your own, except for Flamethrowers, which this build is based around. These deal high DPS, no stagger, and they kind of blind the enemy in PvP. They also inflict a status effect called ACS Overload that makes it easier to stagger the enemy, but I don't care about that for this build. We need our shoulder slots for defensive parts. Speaking of which, we're using the Pulse Shield Launcher, as I said. This is probably the rarest part to see in PvP, because it blocks your shots. We can do cool tech with this, such as shooting a Pulse Shield, then assault boosting through it. This will make any missiles chasing us from behind slam into the shield instead. You can also reset your stagger buildup by hiding behind the Pulse Shields for a few seconds. And if enemies run into these, they'll take some impact damage. A lot of it actually. It really screws over aggro builds. Next we're using the Coral Shield. This is just a meta distorting part. If you activate the Coral Shield right when a Zimmerman player shoots you, aka shield parrying, their shot deals 20% impact damage. Zimmermans feel like a mosquito bite. I recommend watching my Bumblebee build video to see how that works. Speaking of the Bumblebee, the Firefly basically automatically wins against that build because of the Coral Shield. That's because the Coral Shield blocks status buildup from electric weapons, which is where the stun pistols get over half their damage from. You can also parry missile salvos from floaty missile builds right before they hit you. So this one part counters the three most meta builds, mostly because of the parrying mechanic. It's called Initial Guard in the game. But we're using Pulse Armor because it lets us reset our stagger buildup safely, and the rest of the parts are mostly down to personal taste, although I do recommend using the Noctrier arms because they have the highest firearm specialization, and we don't care about the extremely low recoil control on this particular build because the Flamethrowers seem unaffected by recoil. I'm not positive on that, but I think it's the case. If they have recoil, it's quite low. You could make this build heavier or even put it on a quad or tank legs. I prefer the adaptability of a light biped because, well, you're just going to see in the PvP that it makes adjusting to things a lot easier. So without further ado, let's get into some matches. So some of the feedback I've gotten on my PvP clips is that I seem to play against a lot of like bad builds or like easy players, and I wanted to pick out some of the like harder matchups I played today. I didn't lose so far, but these guys gave me some trouble, and I had to adapt pretty hard. So this guy has a build that has different sources of impact damage, and probably the main counter to Coral Shield is like broken up impact damage. Impact damage that doesn't come all in one spike, because you can parry that. So this guy has different sources of it. He's got the Appurative missile launchers. If I try to parry those, then I won't parry his Truanos. If I try to parry the Truanos, I might miss the Moonlight, so he gets some impact built up on me. I do manage to win in the end, but it is pretty close. So coming into the second round, I was thinking to myself, how do I beat this guy more easily? Because realistically I can, if I play it right. And I realized I just need to parry the Truanos. That's where most of the impact damage is. So that's my strategy for this round. I want to just parry the Truanos, forget about everything else, and walk him down with the Flamethrowers. I will win the DPS race as long as I successfully parry. And I do get the first parry off. So you can see the impact damage is not that high really when you hit that successful shield timing. We do fill up our stagger bar eventually and pop our pulse armor, but he's already pretty much dead. And I parry the second salvo of Truanos, and that's just brutal for him. There's really no way for him to win now, no matter what he does. And I cancel his pulse armor by flamethrowering him to death. GG. So this is a good player that you see very often queuing up. I saw his lobby and clicked on him right away. It's a good way to test the build. He has a Coquille build. It's the pistols that deal insane stagger damage. I think they actually have the highest, like, consistent stagger in the game. Zimmermans might be close behind, but it's all spike damage, obviously. So this guy's build actually kind of counters ours. I think on his back he has the Wurger plasma shotguns, laser shotguns, and he tries to pull them out and do the charge attack on you once you're staggered. But we're not going to let him stagger us. We are going to make it as hard as possible. We're trying to, make that stagger gauge work for us. We're kind of baiting him in with it almost. And he does get one stagger off, but it took him so long that he wasn't really prepared with his combo, and we still have plenty of health to work with, and he's not going to get another stagger off before we barbecue him. We just close in and finish him off. Good round. But the theme of this build is it's pretty adaptable. You're going to see that throughout this video. And we adapt again in this round. That was closer than I would like to win. So this round I want to play around my pulse shields more. I want to kind of block some of the Coquille damage, maybe drop shield sometimes and just dodge some of the damage. Basically, don't let him get consistent stagger buildup on us. As long as we don't get staggered, we're going to be totally okay. He can't do anything to us. And yeah, we block the stagger with our pulse armor, and he's too high in the air to retaliate with his assault armor, so we win that round very fast. GG. Okay, if there's one build that would counter this, it would be this one. This guy has the miniguns, or Gatling guns, or whatever they're called. Basically, they deal insane consistent stagger. Just a solid stream of stagger damage. You can't parry it. If you put your shield up, it's arguably worse because you're converting the instant stagger into a cumulative stagger, so they're actually like dealing more stagger DPS, and they hit you more because the shield increases your hitbox. So this is a very, very hard match. I had to adapt super hard throughout this set in order to win, but I did eventually kind of realize the way to beat it, and this adaptability is why I play a lightweight biped. People tell me, just play quads, quads are better. Yeah, they are, but they're just going to face tank everything, and you're not able to adapt things as easily. So this round, our strategy is to play without the coral shield. We're just not going to turn it on, except at the very end of our stagger bar. And it's working. We are out DPSing him. We do get hit by a grenade there, unfortunately. It's a bit of a misplay on my part. Also a bit of ping involved. But yeah, we're still winning, even despite that. Dodging the miniguns just works way better than shielding against them. We're gonna sort of assault boost out and reset our stagger gauge by hiding behind the shield for a second, and yeah, we could do a lot more of that if we wanted to be scummy, but we didn't need it this round. We could just win by playing relatively aggro. Third round, we've pretty much got him figured out. We're gonna do the same thing, try to hide behind the shields even a bit more to make it easier. And yeah, just want to stick to this guy, don't use the shield, roast him as much as we can. He actually goes AFK here. I thought at the time he might have quit, but I think his controller came unplugged or something. He does come back. A bit unfortunate that it ended that way, but I would have stopped if I realized that he didn't disconnect. But nonetheless, we will take the win. GG, Mr. Tank Sir. You were fun to play against, and I learned how to play against miniguns from you. So, on to the next match. This guy has several different sources of consistent impact buildup. He's got the Appurative Missile Launcher, always very strong, always great on any build for the most part. And he's got the Chancheng machine gun, I think it's called. It's the one that has a very big magazine, and he can basically just shoot it non-stop into my shield, so that's pretty good. Doesn't deal the most impact, but you don't have to reload it, so that's cool. And he's got a moonlight that he whips out when you're close to him sometimes. He lands a good assault armor timing there, hits me, and my flamethrowers go on overheat because I'm a bot. I read that he's gonna assault boost out and just chase him, and I'm able to barbecue him. This guy's build, I think he needs slightly higher impact weapons to really be super threatening. I think he should replace the machine gun with something else, and it would be a pretty decent build. But maybe also replace the moonlight if it was my build. He's really good on the assault armor. He's got great timing on it. He has really good sense of when you're going to be in the range. So I have to get out so I don't get staggered and hide behind my pulse shields, but I do kill him nonetheless. GG. This is another of those builds that has super high consistent stagger buildup. He has the Ducket pistols. They're very similar to the Coquilles. They deal a lot of stagger that you can't really parry, so that sucks. And he has True Nose on his back, which we're gonna do our best to parry or to dodge. His build is not as threatening as some of the ones earlier. I could lose if I played it really wrong, but we're gonna be just fine here as long as we manage our stagger carefully, hide behind these pulse shields whenever it starts to get high, let it decay. That forces him to get aggressive, which means he has to walk into our flamethrowers, which will go right through the pulse shields. Luckily, we didn't have to adapt to this guy very hard. We kind of already had him figured out from round 1. We've played against some fairly similar builds already. And yeah, it's basically just don't get staggered at the time when he has his True Nose available. Because if you get trucked with those while you're staggered, it's pretty disastrous. He'll wipe out like 4k HP. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to follow my YouTube or my Twitch. I'll be playing more Armored Core 6 PvP using weird builds. And till next time, bye bye.